Morning everyone, Josh here with J-Tech. Today we're going to be demonstrating how to do a valve adjustment on a Cat C7 motor. So as you can see, we've already taken off the valve covers. We've already got it set at top dead center, which is very important. Top dead center for number one. Obviously this is number one. A very easy way to tell is your rocker arms will both be loose. As you can see, these are loose. There's a couple different ways to find top dead center, but being that this motor has been torn apart and put back together improperly so many times, this is the method that we're going to use. So, let's get started. First thing you want to do is you want to take off all these nuts which are holding your valves in place. Alright? And you can see we've already went ahead and done that. So, for this particular model, you'd want to look up the specs by the serial number, not by the model numbers, because it could change from one motor to the next. So this particular model, the intake is set at 15 thousandths and the exhaust is set at 30 thousandths. Okay? So, you're going to need your feeler gauges, a T-handle, and a wrench. It's actually quite simple. Alright, number one, you want to always do your exhaust first. Okay, always set your exhaust first. So, what you want to do is, using your feeler gauges, reposition your wrench and your T-bar right here. Using your feeler gauges, again, your exhaust is always going to be bigger, so use the bigger gauge, 0.003, okay? Stick that right down in there, and as you can see, that's way too much space. So, tighten this down until there's a slight drag. So that's probably a little too much. Just a slight drag, and you could feel some pull on it. That should be good. So then we put this over here, holding the T-handle. You want to tighten down that lock nut. Obviously these are way looser than what you would normally loosen them up to. That's just for the video. There we go. And then tighten that down, ensuring that just the lock nut moves, not your valve adjustment screw. And then take your feeler gauge back, and still slight drag, so that's good. So we probably make it just a little tighter. There you go, slight drag, that's all you're looking for. So we can lock that in, that's good to go. Next we're going to move on to the intake. Same concept applies, the only difference is now instead of using the 30 thousandths, we'll be using the 15. Very careful. So again, pre-position our wrench and our T-bar, and you see this has a bridge here, so in order to do it the right way and do it correctly, make sure both of our intake valves are working at the same distance, you'd want to slide your feeler gauge underneath your rocker arm and your bridge. Now you have to be careful with this feeler gauge because it's so thin that you can get a false reading. So you can see that's really loose. So we'll tighten our T-bar to a slight drag. And again, this is so thin that just because it's not going right here, it doesn't mean that you're too tight, because the feeler gauge is so thin. So just a slight drag. That's very good. We'll put this here. Again, holding the T-bar, you want to tighten down that lock nut. And then go back and ensure. And again, remember, these feeler gauges are so small, just because you got to give it a little ump to get it in there doesn't mean you're out of adjustment. There's a slight drag there. Actually, we'll probably give it a little tighter. There you go, slight drag, very good, right there. And then we'll lock that down, all right? Always ensure that you do the exhaust port first. So exhaust intake, then you move on to number 2, do the exhaust, 3, intake, exhaust, intake. And for number 6, bar it over, because 6 top dead center and 1 top dead center are slightly off. So bar it over till you get the top dead center on 6 and do the same thing, exhaust, intake, and then work backwards. That's it, that's how you do an adjustment on a C7, pretty simple. Yeah.